Hi everyone, I'm Ylenia, a machine learning expert working on synthetic data and privacy at the amateur way, alongside a PhD on this very topic. Today, I'd like to show you why synthetic data is becoming such an important tool to unlock access to data for research. Yes, it comes with some risks, but the key message today is that those risks can be understood, measured, and managed. My aim is to keep it simple and practical, so no technical language, I promise. Let's start off with why synthetic data is important in the first place. Data is essential for research, for developing AI, and for better decision making. But in areas like healthcare, access to real data is tightly restricted. And this is because we want to protect people's privacy. That means researchers often can get the data they need, which slows down innovation. Synthetic data offers a way forward. It's artificially generated data that mimics the structure and the patterns of real-world datasets while protecting privacy. Therefore, they could be useful for a number of different use cases, such as for sensitive data. But how is synthetic data actually made? Here we're talking about tabular synthetic data, so rows and columns, like a spreadsheet. A model learns relationships in the real data, for example, how age is related to the blood pressure, and then generates new records that follows the same patterns. This model can be informed by a variety of inputs, either on their own or in combination. And this could be expert knowledge, summary statistics, but most commonly it is trained on real dataset that contains individual level information. The key idea is that synthetic data is informed by real data, but does not copy it. There is no one-to-one link between a synthetic record and a real person. And that's what makes it different from traditional anonymization. Let's look at this example. On the left, we have a real dataset, where each row represents an actual person. When data are de-identified, we usually replace or generalize certain details. For instance, turning exact ages into age ranges. In this example, the dataset meets what's called for anonymity, meaning that each person can be distinguished from at least three others based on age, gender, and the postcode. And that's a good privacy step. But remember, each row still belongs to a real person. The link to the original data is still there. Synthetic data is different. Instead of modifying real records, it generates entirely new ones based on the patterns it learned. A synthetic record might look realistic, but it doesn't correspond to anyone in the real world. And that's why we see it as a privacy enhancing technology. It breaks the one-to-one link with real people. And depending on how the data are generated, the outputs can vary in realism. Sometimes the postcode or the disease codes are nonsensical, just to get the feeling or the structure of the data, while in other cases there are plausible codes that can make sense statistically. And this depends on the purpose. So since some synthetic data are designed to just look similar in shape, while others aims to behave like real one in the analysis. And what do regulators say? The UK ICO has stated that synthetic data does not inherently provide output privacy. Unfortunately, just because data are synthetic doesn't automatically mean they're safe. If generation isn't done carefully, parts of the real data could still leak through. And that's why researchers and regulators focus on how to measure and reduce that risks, rather than assuming synthetic data is private by default. And there are two main types of privacy attacks that can affect synthetic data: membership disclosure and attribute disclosure. And these are usually targeted attacks. So imagine an insurance company that already knows someone's age and a few health details. If they use a synthetic data set to guess that this person probably has a health condition, they could raise their insurance price unfairly. Membership disclosure means figuring out whether a specific person was part of the training data used to generate the synthetic data. Even knowing that can be sensitive. For instance, if the training data were from a cancer registry or from a HIV risk study. So membership disclosure is not just a theoretical concern, but has like real privacy implication. Attribute disclosure is when someone uses synthetic data to guess and hidden characteristics about a person. For example, predicting someone's condition from their age and the postcode. However, not all inferences are privacy risks. If the information could be guessed from general knowledge, like smokers are more likely to get lung disease, that's not a vulnerability of the dataset itself. So we only worry about new information that could be learned because of the synthetic dataset. Also, some people worry about model inversion attacks, where someone tries to reverse engineer how the synthetic data was created. But technically, this is considered like a largely theoretical risk. In practice, the most reliable way to check it for data owners is to run a motivated intruder test to assess the likely risks in their own case. And today, I'm here to reassure you that there are proved methodologies to keep these risks extremely low. The goal is to make the chance of anyone learning real information so small that it's only theoretical. There are a few key principles. So the first, we need to design model carefully so they learn overall patterns, but they don't memorize specific people. We need to use input data safely, cleaning or grouping details so that no one stands out uniquely. Also, it's important to check and filter results after generation, removing synthetic records that are too close to real ones. Monitor privacy over time. It needed to make sure the risks remain consistently low. This layer of protection makes the likelihood of privacy loss extremely remote. Even so, data owners should further reassure themselves by testing membership and attribute inference with quantifiable state-of-the-art metrics. Finally, we must acknowledge that when we generate synthetic data, privacy and fidelity are connected. Fidelity means how well the synthetic data preserve the real patterns we care about. We can generate synthetic data that looks very realistic, but it might be too similar to the real data, and that can increase the privacy risks. But if we protect privacy too strongly by removing too much detail, the data becomes less meaningful. So the real challenge is finding the right balance between the privacy and the fidelity, depending on what the data is meant to be used for. And that's exactly what many researchers, including myself, are working on, making synthetic data both safe and meaningful. Thank you everyone for listening to me till the end. Those are my contacts on the slide, so feel free to reach out if you have any question, feedback, or if you're just interested in synthetic data.